Aftercare After Dark is intended for mature audiences. If you're under the age of 18, we would ask you to leave this broadcast immediately and patiently await your formal invite to the grown folks table. We sometimes discuss topics that can be triggering for some. Please refer to the show's notes for episode-specific trigger warnings and resources. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aftercare After Dark. My name is Miss Jee.
And I'm Yolanda. We're two sisters helping each other navigate these kink streets. Aftercare is time spent communicating and taking care of your partner after sex and or play. But who does this vital work when you're single? We are here for each other and those of you who are also exploring. Well, for tonight, we are doing the first of many profiles. And this is in part for us to review where we've been so we don't make the same mistakes. And it is for you to notice if you notice, have you dated one of these types of guys? Because it's not just this particular person. We are using pseudonyms sometimes. In one of these, I'm gonna get froggy. I'm using the real name. You did what you did, and it's gonna be out here, okay? No apologies. But for the most part, we'll be using pseudonyms to protect the very, very guilty. They are snapshots, their behavior, our behavior, what we learned. Do we encounter the same types of things? We're going to investigate all of that by creating a profile of a person that we actually had some kind of relationship with. Miss Jee is going to share all about George.
George is a 35-year-old Caucasian male who lived with in his mother's house under his mother's roof. I think he worked some sort of office clerk job. We didn't get into those kinds of details, but he did work in some sort of office clerky type environment. Some of his hobbies included disc golfing. He enjoyed eating out very much and going to bars, or at least those are the hobbies that I've noticed. How did we meet? We met on FetLife. I was looking for service submissives at the time, and he applied by sending me a DM with his qualifications and then sending me a tribute application fee. So that was automatically check the points right there. He followed instructions, paid attention, and I enjoyed that. What is a service submissive? Their primary goal and purpose is to be of service to the top. Service submissives enjoy cooking, cleaning, sweeping, mopping, like doing domestic labors and household duties for their dom. That's how we met. We then scheduled a Zoom call interview and we had a conversation. And around that time, I was moving as well too. So we had a Zoom interview and then everything checked out. And then I tasked him with his first task, which was show up and cut my grass. And at the time, I lived on a little under an acre's worth of property, and all I had was this push mower, and it's quite literally an all-day job. So he showed up and he cut my grass, and he was diligent. He finished it, saw it through. It was not an easy task by any means, but he made it through. And then I fed him. I had lunch ready for him after, and he enjoyed that. And then our relationship started getting a little muddled. So it was, for all intents and purposes in the beginning, it was very much service submissive, service top. And so the benefits that we had discussed, call it incentives, the incentives and rewards that we had discussed was you rub my back, I rub yours. One kink date, an event a month, and one date, like vanilla date a month. Anything else outside of that was by request. And I essentially told this young man, if you see an event that you'd like to invite me to, invite me, ask me, but you are responsible for paying the ticket and securing those tickets. So it was service submissive, service top relationship dynamic in the beginning.
How long did that relationship dynamic last?
I think about a month. So by then I was also moving at the time. And after he showed up to mow my grass, I also needed a working party to help me pack my moving vans. And he showed up for that too. He showed up and showed out. He worked really, really hard to like show up for me during that move. It impressed me. It left a very distinct impression. I think that was when things started moving outside of those parameters. Because he also was like, he stayed overnight. slept on the floor together because all the beds were packed. I fed him. So very much that event, that moving event is when things started getting moving outside of that. Because also in the interim of this as well too, we're like talking and getting to know each other. And one of the things that I said that I can actually like hold myself accountable to, because this created some blurred lines, I said, hey, show up for me and care. right? Like care as a friend. The people that I have in my lives, I care about these people. And so I wanted to pursue a friendship, and I very much exuded that desire. I wanted to be his friend. I wanted to get to know you. I wanted to care for you. This is kind of getting into more of the feeling stuff. At the time as well, too, I had been listening to some dialogue about how he was being rejected by other service doms and that he would get blocked without an explanation. And he expressed some, I'd say regret, but some sadness that his role and his only value to people, or at least to these service doms, his only value to these ladies was dependent on what he could do for them and how much money he brings to the table. So this is the dialogue that he came with. And I did feel sorry for him. In order to assuage that guilt in me for some reason, I offered friendship. I actually care about the people I'm with and people that I'm around. After that October moving event, I told him, I was like, hey, there's something there. Because one of his things was like, I'm worth more than just my usefulness, what I can do for you, and I'm worth more than what I can pay. These were his complaints. And so when it took that event, when he like showed up and like worked really hard to help me load, like pack up my house and stuff like that, that was a very stressful event for me. And I think in some ways it became a bonding moment as well too, because I can distinctly remember like after that, my guard came down.
So we went from what you negotiated to something else.
Mm-hmm. To something else. So this is a month. And then moving into November, we started spending time together outside of the service dynamic. Again, this was my fault. He had bought concert tickets and had an extra ticket. And I can't remember if he had someone and they canceled, or he bought an extra ticket in hopes of being able to find someone. I can't remember which one it was. Because he had showed up for me at the moving party, I wanted to do something for him. And so I said yes to be his date to this concert. I didn't even like the band.
Okay, so I'm going to interject here just from having listened to this story like more than once. That man bought 2 tickets because he wanted you to go.
I don't know when he bought these tickets though.
He bought 2 tickets. He didn't buy them 3 months in advance, did he? Before he met you?
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't ask.
Probably not. Okay, he didn't have anybody to go with before he met you. He bought those tickets knowing full well that he was going to ask you and hope that you said yes. I'm just saying. I'm putting it in there.
He did not ask. I volunteered myself.
He told you a story. Okay, he told you a story. I have an extra ticket, and you said I'll go with you. You volunteered, but he led with how did you know about these tickets? Did you find them?
No, he told me.
Yeah, exactly. We have to like, I'm looking out for you. Okay, I'm looking out for you. We have to like break down these narratives that we tell ourselves. Oh, he had an extra ticket.
Right. But he's also not here to defend himself, so I cannot say
no,
that he
no,
bought...
no, 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 no.
That's fine. Okay.
No, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
Moving on. So that was like our official date, like our first official date night. I dressed up. I had some nice heels on, and these were my comfy like dance heels. And we were supposed to go to dinner first before going to this concert. This is where we go into the like boys, not men, right? So he volunteered the restaurant and did not check or call to make a reservation. When we showed up, the restaurant was closed. When we showed up, the restaurant was closed, and we had already decided to park somewhere else and take an Uber to the location. And so we ended up walking around this entire building looking for the restaurant because he didn't take the time to actually find out where it was. Walked around this building, this whole building, looking for a way to get into the restaurant, only to find out the restaurant was closed. There was another restaurant there, and it was open, and it was a nice little like bistro looking place. It wasn't no fancy dinner place. I'm in heels. I've already walked around an entire block by this point. We're on a timer. I didn't say anything. I was just watching at this point. I'm just there going with the flow, following his lead, letting him lead, and I'm just paying attention. That's all I'm doing.
I'm having one of those moments. The G.
I'm
Gee moment.
I'm just paying attention. There was a fucking restaurant there. We passed by it twice, and not once did it occur to him, let's just go here. No, we got in a cab, went to the venue, walked another freaking whole ass street down to another basement, whatever. Anyways, went to dinner. It was great, and then went to the concert. It wasn't that great. The concert wasn't that great. I'm still me and I still danced and I still like made the best out of it. And there was definitely a point where, he was standing behind me and feeling awkward as shit. So I just like grabbed his hands and put it around me and just like did the couple treatments. So again, fully realize now that these are all the things that kind of like led to where it led.
Keep it moving. Keep it moving. So you had the first date.
Led to
It
where it
was
led. So that was our first
awkward.
date. It was definitely, my heart wasn't in it. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. It was something that I just did because somehow in my mind, like I felt like I owed him that for showing up the way that he did. It was very distinctly something that I did for him. It wasn't anything that I did for myself. I didn't really enjoy it that much, but it was still fun. But it definitely wasn't my thing. And so the next time, I can't remember if it was before or after this, but I think it was before because before this, I had been sick for like a week and a half or some shit like that. I went to Utah, came back with an ache, and I was down for like a week and a half. And he showed up for me and brought soup. So again, it was like yet another thing, right? Showing up in the time of need. And then we had that date night. And then not too long after that, I can't remember, we went disc golfing together. I hadn't been disc golfing in years. It's something that he enjoyed doing. It was his physical activity, his way of getting out of the house and doing something. So it was like the only form of exercise that he did. So we went on a disc golf date and it was fun. It was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. And then we went to lunch after. So this is now like two vanilla dates outside of the one kink date and one vanilla date. Prior to this as well, too, we had went to Primal Night together, to a kink event together called Primal Night. It's just like a little play party for primal. So primals are kinksters and people who tend to be a little bit more in touch with their base animal instincts. They have like an inner animal kind of deal. On my primal side is a lioness, right? That's my top side. And then like on the submissive side, it's the kitten. It's a kitty. And then there's like gorillas, bears, there's wolves. There's like some people out there will identify as a wolf. There's a panther. Some people out there would identify as a panther, but like mostly felines. You'll see that too. Puppies and stuff. So those are all examples of primal. So it went to this primal play party and we did some primal wrestling and he enjoyed that very much. And then we had also gone to a photo shoot together. So he got to see what went on behind the scenes when we do these creative artistic photo shoots. And then we went out and had dinner after that too. So I had like been spending decent amount of time with this person.
Y'all were dating. I know you didn't want to call it that, but that's exactly what you guys were doing. You were
Yeah,
dating.
well, that's mostly because it makes me a little angry when I call it that.
I know it bothers you. I know it bothers you. But from the outside looking in, all of the activities that you are listing, he did service for you once. He did service for you 1.5 times. That's what I'm going to say. 1.5 times because you said you were sick. But I am willing to put money on it. If you asked this individual what you were to each other, he would have said, "That's my girlfriend." It sounds like dating to me. That's exactly what it sounds like.
So going into second month.
Like, never mind.
So no, because people have asked him what I was to him, and this was at play parties, and he told them that I was his service top. But it's the whole like action and feelings not mixing, like not being in touch with each other. And again, like I said, after he showed up with the moving party, I don't want to say it sealed the deal, but that was like, there's something there. There's something worth. You're worth something. And that's exactly what I said. That's worth something. And then he grasped onto that and then showed up for me when he was sick. Again, showing up in these times of need. And then that kind of like, I would say naturally, but like for me, moved into like, I felt like I owed this guy something for showing up for me in a time of need. I was grateful. I appreciated his presence in my life and I appreciated his usefulness in my life. Duh.
So you went disc golfing in return, and you went to this concert in return, and you went to this play party in return. None of that sounds like service. To me, that sounds like dating. That sounds like dating to me.
Anyways, and so it was like Thanksgiving. by this time, like going into months two, he had already he had already met my sisters. He's already been around my nieces because they were there when he came over for the moving party. So he's been introduced to my family life. Again, blurred lines. He's been introduced to my family life. He got to see what my family life and family dynamic looked like, and he liked it. He really liked it. So I think from him, from his point of view, it was the first time somebody was willing to shed the persona and be vulnerable with him. The more I got to know him, the more vulnerable he got too. So we got deep with each other. He told me a little bit about his family life, and it wasn't great. I didn't tell him a whole lot. From my end, I was in an authentic friendship with this gentleman. He was being labeled in my head as a brother to me. So I wanted to show up for him. I wanted to make him feel good. I wanted to be a source of joy in his life. And then everything started imploding towards the end.
So when did things turn?
I believe around Thanksgiving time, he had started texting me and asking for Zoom calls. Before this, we were both going through some stressful stuff. When he would try to reach out to me to ask for emotional support, I would say, hey, let's hop on a Zoom call, right? And so that was perfectly fine for me. The issue for me began when he started having free time, access time, alone time. And he started texting me, hey, what are you doing? I'm working. What's up? What do you need? Oh, nothing. I got the house to myself and I'm bored. So I didn't realize at the time in the moment that it was going to be like a thing for me. I just like had like a flash of annoyance and was like, good night, bye. No, that did not happen. The first time that happened, he goes, nothing. I'm at home alone, bored. You got some free time to chat. And I was actually on the phone on the Zoom with you. Because you remember this, after I got off the phone, off the Zoom with you, I hopped on Zoom with him too. I was like, what's up, George? What do you need? What do you want? Oh, nothing. I was just bored sitting around. And so what did I
Well, see
do?
that was the downfall. Yeah, Yolanda wrecked
And
your
so what did I
relationship.
do for a whole 30 minutes? And so that was the first time that happened. The second time that happened, I don't think I actually got on a Zoom call with him, but that was the first time that happened. And then the next time he texted me, hey, I'm bored. I got the house free. This was like before the scene, before that last scene. This was like the point of implosion. And I texted back, I'm working. What do you need? Oh, nothing. I've got the house to myself. I'm bored.
You thought you were his girlfriend and you could chat whenever you wanted to. That is what that is.
Because I gave him access to me outside of our service dynamic.
Not even a little bit. I would say the service dynamic from what you described to me was 2 times, 1.5 times in my head. And the rest is normal vanilla dating outside of like, okay, you went to Primal Night. That was a kink
Yeah.
activity, but the behavior, right? The behavior is heteronormative. This is what dating couples do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he said, I'm bored and I don't have anything to do and I want to talk to you, right? Because I think in your mind, you think it's dismissive, like he doesn't have anything better to do. I think, and this is going in from a different perspective, I think I want to connect with you. And this is how I'm expressing I want to connect with you. I don't think it was because he was bored. He wanted to talk. He liked you. He liked you a lot. He thought you were his girlfriend. That is what I'm reading off of him calling you to say he was bored. You get annoyed because you're like, don't waste my time. But that's your thing is like, don't tell me you're bored. There has to be a reason why you're calling me. I think it's your way of trying to clarify what the relationship was. I think he was constantly trying to blur that line. He wanted to talk to his girlfriend. That's what he wanted to do.
Well, also going through this process, I realized that you're not a great active listener and you're not really great at being conscientious and considerate of other people. Like this all kind of like came out like throughout the outro process. You're not service oriented. You don't know what it's like to serve anyone because you've never had that. But that's toxic to a lot of these people. But anyways, so kind of going through the outro process, this is already like a couple events stacked up. Like we have had conversations. I have had conversations where I've checked him a couple times. I wasn't aware that the lines were getting blurry because in my head, he was always complaining about how he was treated.
You didn't want to treat him poorly.
I didn't want to treat him poorly, and I was so hyper focused on being good to him that I didn't realize that I was like sacrificing my own boundaries in order to accommodate his emotional deficits.
All right,
his
let's get to the scene because you promised him a kink date.
I can't be stressing over work, right? So that's my priority for Friday. He texts me at like 4, 5, 6. I can't remember, but like early evening or some shit. Like, hey, what are you doing? I've got the house free. I'm working, George. What do you need? Oh, nothing. Sitting at home, bored. Good night. See you tomorrow. Because he's supposed to come over Saturday afternoon to do things for me and do my chores so we could free up my evening, right? 2 hours later, dude, no pressure, but I'm at the bar. There's karaoke here. You should come out. And that like automatically was, I think that things started boiling over. The resentment started boiling. So that's Friday night. And so I kind of like blew up and I was like, that's code for leave me the fuck alone. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm working. See you tomorrow is code for I'm busy. Leave me the fuck alone.
It's
That
not
was my little
code. You
thing.
were very clear that you didn't want to see him. Like
Exactly.
that you don't have to
Exactly.
justify that.
I could not be any clearer. Good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Right. But here's the thing, like, I don't understand. And I do, but at the same time, it makes me angry. Why do I have to be mean? I was supposed to meet up with my couple because we were going to do a scene later that night together as well, too. So I had a scene with George planned out and I had a scene with my couple planned out. We were just starting to explore a brand new dynamic at the time as well, too. So the couple ended up canceling in like 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours where we were supposed to meet. So like now left 3 hours open before we had to show up at the party. Prior to this in the afternoon that he was spending with me, he was like doing stuff for me. I have a thing about if they give you a task, I will give guidance as needed, but I can tell when you don't do shit. Like I can tell when you're not used to doing physical labor. I can tell when you don't do shit outside of the house. I've grown up doing all of the work inside and outside of the house.
Okay, I'm gonna cue you to this. So I listen to all the podcasts. I listen to everybody. Nobody has good experiences with service staff because they are there to be punished. They're going to do a terrible job. They're not actually there to do the actual work. I've heard this over and over and over again. The feedback is don't get service staffs.
Yeah, they're using the service as a disguise to gain access to you. They don't do service for shit. Anyways, I was constantly having to stop what I was doing to show this dude what to do, to help him problem solve. Was again not a big deal for me, but at the same time, in my head, you're not somebody that I want to fuck with. This was a very similar situation. I can't remember what exactly that he did, but I remember I was like going in, getting dressed, doing my hair, doing my makeup, and like every time I came out, he was sitting down. He was sitting down.
Ooh,
And this goes
like
back.
that might like kill me.
You're a person of color. I am a person. We are brown people. We understand if we've got shit to do, and mom, right? Especially mom, because mom did this. If the adults are on their feet doing things, you as a child are not allowed to be sitting on your fucking ass.
I would lose my
right?
mind because I think it like I think partly it's a trauma response, but partly it's a like we don't if we have tasks even if we don't want to do it or if we are like moving slow, we're not sitting down though.
Right. Not again.
I don't want to die.
Again, every time I have to stop what I'm doing to tell this man to do something, it was just a point. Like all of those loyalty points that I had been stacking was just fucking one by one by one. These like accumulative experiences. It was I think it was like a 2 week span, a 2 week period of when the fallout began. And so I came out and like the last time I came out, I was like, get up, do the dishes. You're here to do chores so that I can have an evening away with you. So that wasn't the part that got me. It was that was the part that just I was boiling and like simmering. And at this point, as soon as he was seated outside, I started whistling. Like fucking like a tea kettle pot. And then I went back in, got dressed, came out. I had him help me put my shoes on first. He struggled with that. We made do. I came back out to get him to my corset. I think I've told you this story. I had him tie off my corset. He struggled for a good solid. I think this was a whole 3 minute ordeal. I can't remember, but like he struggled. He couldn't
Wait,
figure
it
it
only
out.
took 3 minutes?
I don't know, but like he struggled. He couldn't figure it out, right? And here's the thing, I'm over here, I'm just like paying attention. I'm not willfully doing this shit. I had no idea that you're going to suck at helping women get dressed. It just goes to show how often you've
It
had to
can be
undress a
so
woman.
so in my story, when we get to my story, which will probably be next episode, that was like one of the sexiest moments in my life, having someone help me, someone who didn't know what they were doing with my corset, took their time, didn't know, was a little adrift, but like really took their time to figure it out and like get it perfect. The act of helping me get dressed was the sexiest, one of the sexiest moments in my life. It is top five of like, this person had never dealt with this before. No
Um,
frustration.
Prior to this, he had been complaining.
Like, so like
That was
it's very interesting how like, listen, my relationship with this person didn't work out either, right? It was a very short relationship. But as I said before, top five sexiest moments of my life was someone who had never dressed a woman taking time to figure it out, doing adjustments, taking my temperature. Like, is this too much? Is this like too, like, like quite literally checking in, not knowing what they're doing, messing up, starting over. I was enthralled. Like, the whole thing made me feel like a pretty princess. It really did. I can do this forever. And it took, when you said 3 minutes of like trying to get you into your corset, I was like,
I just threw a number out there. It could be 5 minutes. I have no idea. It just took
what I'm
forever.
saying is like the person who had never been encountered with this particular problem, trying to solve it. I mean, super sexy. Like, and it wasn't a put on. He was being earnest. He was like, oh, wait, I can't do it from the top. I can't do it from the bottom. I think I have to start from the middle. Like, so he would undo his work and start again, and was like, one, problem solving, two, dealing with something physical that he's not used to doing, three, checking in with me to see
Persistence,
how I felt, persistence, like, like
determination.
determination, and wanting to do this and wanting to do a really good job. Like, and did a really good job in the end. And it took 20 minutes for me
And
to get into
so,
my corset myself. Takes about 5 minutes, but I can't do the super, like, I can't lace up properly by myself. That is something that somebody else has to do. Admitted deficiency, right? Admitted, I've never done this before, but I would like to do this for it. And all the tingles. All the
yeah.
tingles. It's very interesting how two different people with kind of the same presentation. You have to love women in order to be a sub, to be perfectly honest. Like, like you have to,
And he's not. And he's
women.
not like that. Why do women even put up with this? Like that was like as soon as he said that, it just like everything clicked for me. I'm like, you don't love women. I don't have I don't have the space to like delve into that comment and why I became unhinged after that. But it became fucking clear to me in that moment, this orgasm denial. So I had him start chastity Thursday night, Friday, and then Saturday night it was supposed to come off. Prior to this, we had been discussing some pre-scene discussions on what do you want to happen? What are you open to? Like we were already negotiating on Thursday because I actually had a Zoom call with him on Thursday to negotiate his scene, which was why the Friday comment of, oh, dude, you should come out after I told him good night was so incredibly off-putting for me because it was just like greedy. After that, I reached behind, tied my own corset, quite literally as he's watching. I just reached behind my back, fucking just tie the thing, right? Just to
I would have
show
been big
him how.
mad. I would have been big mad. Like, honestly, can I realize that like I am, well, I'm old. I'm old. I don't have that type of patience and suffer from the Gen X. We don't have patience. I think I would have called it after the, like, I don't see why you're women. Like, I would have been like, you know what? We're not doing this. I can't.
Right. And this goes back to like, I felt like I owed this guy something because I should have just stopped it there. It should never have proceeded from that because throughout the day, started Friday night from what he said Friday night, and throughout the whole day, every time I had to stop and cater to him and tell him what to do and show him what to do and blah, 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 help him problem solve, it was like my mood just sank. It was just dive bombing straight down, plummeting. And I quite literally forced myself to go to this play party with this. I betrayed myself, right? Like I let myself down. I denied my feelings. I denied what I was feeling because I felt like I owed this guy something. It's fine. It's okay. No, it's not, but it's okay.
No, it really, like,
It is what it is. It happened.
okay,
I
no, no,
get
no,
it.
no, no, no. I don't want you to be annoyed with yourself. I don't want you to be annoyed with yourself. I want you to honor you're trying to do right. You're trying to do right. You are reaching a frustration level. You are turned off. You want to balance the scales, and you don't want to feel like you've taken advantage of someone. You are allowed to be human. You're allowed to be human. So honor that. That's not a you problem. That's not really a you problem. You really wanted to do the right thing. So I want you to take a moment and say, I wanted to do right, and that was okay.
I wanted to do right, and it was okay. I wanted to be a good experience for him. I wanted to be a good person to him. And that involved denying how I felt, and that's fine. So we moved on into the scene. So the scene is at one of our public dungeons, and it was a play party. It's a dungeon play party, right? So you come in through, there's a lobby, and then there's like a lounge room, there's a back room, and that's where all the dungeon furniture is. So when we talk about dungeon furniture, I'm talking about St. Andrew's Cross. There's a bondage bed, quite literally a gigantic four-poster with like hooks and shit for you to hang from and tie people up in rope. So it's a whole dungeon. It's like multiple points. So I had him in the middle of the room. There are couches lining the room, two up against the wall, so people can sit there and watch and, watch the shows.
You didn't tell me
So
that part. So you can you can lounge back and
they have like lounging, like
you're
little
like one of those
couches.
pervy. Okay, let me ask a
Hmm.
question. If you are one of those pervy, I like to watch people, can you yes, you can have fun with yourself on the couch?
Yes.
Oh,
It's very
I mean, I would never.
Yeah, so it's very much a public dungeon. You have spaces where you can go sit on the couch. If you want to masturbate and bring out a vibrator and have at it, you're more than welcome to. It's quite literally what that is. So if you're going out and you're looking to have intimate sexual encounters with somebody away from eyes, this is not the place for it. Go somewhere else. Tied him down to the chair. And this is where I don't like submissives who don't understand the work and effort that goes into prepping for a fucking scene. And George was very much one of those. I had to like take time to go meet up with my couple to refresh my rope skills because it had been forever since I've done it. I was also like labbing an idea. I had an idea of of how I wanted to tie him. And my couple helped me lab it out, and work it out because I don't want to wait till the scene to do that. So we go into the scene, tie him up, tie him down to this couch, and he has a gag in his mouth and a hood over his head because I don't want to look at his face. After my preparation, I come over to his head and I'm just like, today I'm going to hurt your feelings. I've been watching you, I've been listening, and I've been paying attention to you for the last two months. We've gotten to know each other pretty well over the last few months. I've got some shit to say, and I'm gonna fucking hurt you, but I'm gonna hurt you with the truth. That's how I started the scene. Prior to this, we had been warming up. Like I said, he had Chastity Thursday. We were like warming up, quite literally, like building up to the actual scene itself, too. So, one of those warming up and build up was me posting a picture of me beating somebody online on FetLife and like writing it out. I'm like, nothing quite hurts like the truth. And I'm going to cut you with it. He liked that picture and he commented below, I'm ready. He got excited. Okay, so this is going into the scene. I'm going to hurt you with the truth. He was excited, but still a little scared and nervous, but he was excited. So I did my thing. We did some impact. And as I'm like in between different impact types, because there's spanking, there's paddles, there's the things, implements, and in between I'm the impacts, I would come over to his ear and like say some shit to him pegging. So I brought my strap on out and I did the thing. And I'm pretty sure he didn't say anything before. He didn't say anything prior to the scene at any point during the whole time we got to know each other. And I suspect because after our scene, he posted another piece of erotica publicly on his profile. And in that piece of erotica, when he wrote it out, he said, could it be? Is it she? It's her. I met her. This is her. It's confirmation that this is her. And so she took my cherry. So I'm pretty sure, just assuming off of that piece of erotica, that I was his first. I would have liked to have known.
You didn't
I
talk
would
about
have,
it beforehand.
right. But I also feel like he omitted that. He asked, like, would you like
Okay.
to scene? Can we do a scene? Yes. Would you like to peg me? Yes. Sure. I'd love to. I enjoy it. That was it.
Okay, his communication style. His communication style. So, would you like to peg me is very different from I want you to peg. I know you feel bad. I know you feel bad about how things ended, but everything about the way that he communicates, from my perspective, from what you've shown me, from his own writing, he was manipulating. When you're negotiating, there's a very different thing to say. I would like you to peg me. That is affirmative, right? Direct. I would like
Yes.
you to do this thing.
Right. So coming
Versus
out of the whole thing, now that I'm here and I'm reflecting back on all the things that was happening, I'm like, yeah, yeah.
that's a manipulation. Like, are you going to peg me? Is a different way of putting that. Would you like to peg me? Is a very manipulative. I don't have to take responsibility for what happens to me in that kind of scenario. There's a difference between saying, I want this to happen, and,
I would like to be pegged. I
that's
would
not
like
what
to
he
be.
said, though.
Would you?
That's,
Would you like to peg me?
it like,
It just went hand in hand with the whole like writing the erotica and sending it to me in DM form. Did you like it? Did you like it? It was always like seeking out attachment. That was what it was, seeking out
it's not
emotional
seeking out,
attachment.
and it's not even seeking out attachment. It's an indirect, I study these things. It's an indirect way of communicating something that you want without having to take responsibility for saying. And
Yes,
so,
because
yeah.
he's also throughout this process, I've also learned like one of the things that I said to him was like, just ask, just ask. If you want something, just ask. What's the worst that could happen? Me say no, right? And so every time he would ask and I would say no, he would just immediately recoil, clam back up, and then like getting him to come back out again. And so pegged him. It wasn't great. Imagine like taking care of yourself and then your daughter walking into the room as you're about to orgasm. That's what a ruined orgasm is. So I had him pleasure himself, and just as he was reaching climax, I beat the shit out of him with my flogger and gave him a ruined orgasm. So that was like the end of our scene. And as soon as that was over, I had him clean up, had him do all the things, and I moved into my scene with my couple and Royce at the time too. So by this time, we had already been 3 hours in. I didn't realize that I had spent that much time with this individual. That's how freaking immersed you are, and right. And so we didn't have time for aftercare at the event, at the party, because they quite literally closed down and was like kicking us out because we were overstaying. I led into the breakup part. I assumed, and this was wrong of me, I assumed that the next day was Sunday, that he was going to be free and able to meet up for our aftercare.
Did you negotiate your aftercare?
Yes, but we did
What was
not.
it?
It was cuddles on the couch and shit like that. Let me take that
Cuddles.
back. No, no,
Okay.
this was the negotiated aftercare for our first play date before that. We did not negotiate. We did not clearly negotiate aftercare for this scene because I automatically assumed that it was going to be the same aftercare as the last time. I assumed that we were going to meet Sunday for aftercare. We did not clearly negotiate it prior to the scene. So we didn't have time to do aftercare at the dungeon before we were kicked out. Before we left, I told him I'll check in with you tomorrow. However, I told him in scene that I don't want shit to do with you and I don't want to hear shit with you until I reach out and I'll talk to you on Monday. So that was like already contradictory. And then I'll reach out to you. I'll check in with you tomorrow. So that was my mistake because I will check in with you tomorrow is not the same as we're going to do our aftercare tomorrow. Okay. Sunday came over. I'm already going through the things. My emotions are out of whack. I'm struggling with guilt, an intense amount of guilt. I checked in with him and I'm pretty sure that I hopped on a Zoom call with him. And that was when he said, this is a boundary for me. I do my own aftercare because he pays for pro dom sessions and pro doms don't do aftercare. So he admitted that he wasn't aware that aftercare was going to take more than 24 hours. I actually told him this prior to our scene. He was like, you're the first person who has ever told me that aftercare could take more than 24 hours. So I'm already going through like really bad, like top drop at this time. I'm crying. I'm just like crying left and right. You saw me. And so when we had our Zoom call, he assured me that he was fine. He's like, I'm going to take me a little while to like process the mental and emotional stuff, but like physically, I'm fine. I took the day off to go do some things for myself. This is my non negotiable boundary. This is my boundary as a friend. This is a friend boundary as well too. I'm going to do my own aftercare and today is my aftercare day. This was the Zoom conversation, okay? So this was me having that Zoom conversation Sunday. I talked
That's
to
not how
you.
that works, my guy. And
I
I'm
t-
new
I
here.
I talked to you Monday. You saw me Monday. What state was I in on Monday?
Down bad girl. Like you were down bad girl. Like we're friends. We have this connection. We talk about these things. I don't want you to feel like I'm making a judgment. It's not a judgment. Like, but you were in a bad way. You were in a bad way. I saw that. We spent a lot of time like talking about it. We had a little snafu. We had a little snafu. You want to read the email?
Okay, so the email was like Monday. I was like typing it out. I stayed up all night Monday night. It might have been all night Sunday night too. I started drafting it Sunday night and then I fucking finished it Monday night. So I was like already going a full day without sleep by the time I talked to you. So the email. So I sent this to George and then I sent this to you because in my head I'm trying to explain to you what I'm doing, what shit's going on in my head that's creating all of this. So the email that I sent you had no preface, no no headline, nothing.
To clarify for the audience, I thought this was addressed to me. I thought I was getting this from my friend. So I think you met George and I reconnected with you at the same time.
So I finished the email Monday night and I forwarded you the email that I sent George Tuesday. It's been 10 weeks since our first Zoom call. I'd like to preface this by saying that the current work you're doing to love yourself is admirable, and I hope you're proud of yourself for that. You are a good person, and we all have our flaws. People deserve the opportunity for self improvement, and I hope that this experience will allow you some self reflection on toxic habits and patterns of thought that you have that has been ingrained, perpetuated, and reinforced by the world and internet. These are things that I've observed, things that I've heard, things that I've seen. Our own perception is our own reality, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the whole truth. And so this is my truth based on my perception. People like us grew up with terrible examples of healthy relationships, but at some point we have to stop blaming our parents for the work we have yet to do on ourselves. Perhaps this will shine some light on a path and direction you haven't been made aware of yet. And then it goes into the story.
There's a break and then there's the story, right? So I read through the whole thing. I thought the very first part was about us because we'd been meeting on Zoom for about 10 weeks and we were talking. It was the genesis for the show. I had just thrown the idea out there. I didn't have any idea that
Context.
have any idea what it was, but I was like, you know what? These are great conversations. I think they're not only helpful for us, I think they would be helpful for others. I haven't heard anything like what we talk about. So like I was excited. I was like, okay, we're gonna do this show, and I'm having the ideas and like all of the things, and then I got this from you, and I was like,
This bitch.
I like like especially the parents thing, and I I wrote back to you. I replied back. It took me a few hours because I was like, fuck this bitch. I was mad. I was mad. I was like, agree. It was just an idea and I put it out there. And I know like things take time for me. I told you from the jump, I'm great with ideas, but like making them happen is a weak spot for me. And I told you shit about my upbringing, and that shit ain't fair game. I was butthurt. I was so butthurt when I thought it was for me because there was no like, this is what I sent to George. It was just that I was like,
Yeah. And I'm quite literally like in the middle of a manic episode
yeah,
as well too.
no. Like we worked it out. Like I used my words, you used your words. We figured it out, but in the moment, I was like, I didn't agree to be herself. What the fuck is this shit? I was in the moment. I was like, damn it, another one bites the dust. I can't do friends. I had a
I think
moment,
do you think that was our first moment of conflict? Our first
first
friction
moment
point?
of conflict. And like me, I avoid conflict. Like that's my thing. Like, fuck this. I don't need this. Like, like that might have been the last you heard from me. I've done work on this. I'm so proud. I'm so proud. I took time. I sat with the feeling for a little while. I used my words and communicated, but very direct in the way that I am. Very direct. This is gonna happen. I believe in us. I believe in us, but we're not going to operate under the assumption A, B, and C. And you're like, oh no, that was for George. I was like, oh, now it makes sense. Like when I went
I
and
remember that.
reread it, I was like, now it makes
Yeah.
sense. I didn't
Yeah.
understand that. So like there's a miscommunication. But we got through it. It was our first difficult, and we've had like 3 or 4 difficult conversations, moments of conflict.
We're not on the same page.
This is like personal growth for me, like especially with people that I like love, like I avoid conflict. I let things simmer. I let things boil over, or I disconnect. It's one or the other. Things will grow to a crescendo, and then I lose my shit, or I will withdraw. You might have never heard from me again if I was me from when we first met, like 8 years ago. I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need this. We have skills now. We've been in therapy for a very, very long time. We have skills, communicate. And if she comes back with some bullshit, then, like, like we're done.
So I sent you that writing and you got to see like what was going on in my head. I sent that to him as well too. And then instead of talking to me about it, and this is where the betrayal stuff was like festering for me, I'm over here struggling with guilt, an enormous amount of crushing guilt. Right. And I get it.
The aftercare that you needed.
And he quite literally went into full avoidant mode. And instead of talking to the person that needed him, quite literally, I needed to talk to you. I needed to see you. I needed support. I needed this. And so instead of talking to me about it, he went online and put his business out there. And again, like by all means, great, but you literally cannot sit here and tell me that I'm not reaching out and I'm not expressing and communicating my need. And when you're over here actively avoiding it and seeking toxic empathy and compassion from a bunch of internet randos who've never experienced you in real life. So that was like the disappointing factor as well too. So I can't remember when it was, but I think it was like a Thursday or something. But I fell asleep and I woke up to a missed call from him. And it was a trigger. And it was a trigger because it was like 10 p.m. This was like, at this point, I'm already like full boiling. We're just at this point spilling over and shit like that, boiling over.
So it's like 5 days after seeing
about 4 or 5
before you could talk to him.
And so he like missed call me at 10 p.m. or some shit like that after he posted some fucking writing where he was like seeking compassion from a bunch of randos, and then he let out a story of one of the things that happened that was like totally completely mismatched. You think that I was angry over this, and that was not what I was angry at. This. So like instead of talking to me, he went and did the same again. Fine, cool. And then the other one was, you have a lot more work you need to do on your anger issues. And that was it. That was like the last. That was it. That's how that ended. He blocked me. And this was a very small, petty part of me is satisfied, feels a little sense of self-satisfactory in a way. And this is petty because he blocked me. And when he first connected with me, his major complaint was women block him without any explanation. So that's how that ended.
What have you learned from this?
Well, stick to my boundaries. They're black and white. Don't mix church and state. Don't mix church and state. And then when people show you who they are, believe them and also honor yourself. I spent quite a lot of that dynamic trying to make him feel good. And that's like a pattern that I recognize in myself. And now that I see it, I am actively working on being conscious. You already know that it's a work in progress.
Listen, I almost found myself backsliding myself. Community issues where like I want to belong and I want information and I want community and I want all of the things that you get from having people. But if your community isn't great, don't fall in with that. There are different ways to find community. The scene here is not great. It's not great. It's messy. It's interpersonally messy. There's a faction and a faction broke off from another faction. Like there was a house and the house split. There are, weird things going on. Doesn't matter what side, like I've been to enough events to say like it doesn't matter what side you choose. Both communities are scarred by it and I don't need to be a part of it. I don't, even though I'm curious, even though I want to go to the parties, even though I like, like all of it, like, but if I'm in community, then I'm in community, which means not just here for the party, I'm here for the education. I'll volunteer for events. I will do that. Like I'm not a bad community member where I just show up for the fun stuff. Like I want to be involved in all of it. And so I really had to take my own temperature and say, you got to stop doing this to yourself where you like stick around a bunch of people that you don't want to be in community with, even though they're doing the same thing that you want to do, right? Backsliding, like, and I've done this. You know that I've done this with vet groups. I've done this, with my volunteering. I have done this. So I had to stop myself from behavior that I keep doing. So don't get on yourself too bad. And that's why we're here. That's why we talk to each other. That's why we bounce these things off of each other, because it gets lonely in here. It gets lonely here. We're smart. We're super smart. We're super observant. We're hyper vigilant because of trauma. Like we have so much information and doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the education, the experience. We need other people. We're social animals, right? We need to communicate these things. It's what holds us together. So I don't want you to get on yourself. You're seeking, you're exploring. I'm seeking, I'm exploring. It's okay. It's okay. So when I ask, I know that I have certain things in my head like, hey, you've seen this before. Don't do it. Don't do it.
And I've seen this, now that I've seen it, I'm gonna see it. I don't know what's going on in his head, but like for me on my end, I very much cared about this individual. I allowed myself to care about this individual in a genuine friendship kind of way. I wanted to be his protector. I wanted to look out for him. I wanted to be a good person to him. I wanted to be a good experience for him.
You want it to be a good Dom. You can say that. And I've heard a lot of different things about Dom styles. You want it to be a good Dom. But that's what you want it to be.
And I
And that's,
was.
yeah. Like,
And I
like
was.
that's what it is. And it's okay to say.
And I was. And I told him that too. I'm like, this is work. Relationships are work. And from this point forward, you don't get to ever complain about it because you are actively avoiding the work because he's the one who blocked. I was still willing to meet on the date, but he straight up blocked me. So I was like, now you know why you get blocked. Nobody owes you shit. Nobody
Were you
owes you
relieved?
anything. Yeah, I was. But you also saw like I struggled with the guilt for the rest of that month. And it took me a little while to get out of it. So coming out of it, I think I still have some residuals resentment, right? And then like I want to do my best not to, because it's kind of like forming into anger, like those patterns of old self-loathing. And I don't want to fuel those because I was a good person. I gave him a good experience. And now you know. Now you know your boundaries. Now you know these are your weaknesses. Let's fortify it. Let's fortify them. And then that is the story of George. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. We'll see you next time. Good night.